All right, Nostradamus, let's review a little bit on what he said about the Antichrists.
Well, the Antichrist, this is the subject of a whole book that people have been waiting for years for me to do, and I finally finished it last night, literally. And
it's about time.
Yeah, and posted on my website, and it's called Nostradamus and the Antichrist, codenamed Mabus. And if you go to the home page up the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the thumbnail of a cover. Just click on it and take a look at the page that gives it an overview. But in a nutshell, what I can tell you right now is Nostradamus is probably the most radical end-time or latter-day prophet of the Judeo-Christian tradition, because he's the only one that sees not just one Antichrist, but three. Everybody else in East or West, Islamic, Christian, or Jewish, all see just one.
And we've had two, according to Nostradamus, right?
Yes. The first was called Paul Neolaron, which is a weird word, an anagram, a word play. It's a code for the real name. And those are actually three towns, Paulnay and Laurent, in southwest France. But he has this funny pattern that he uses towns or rivers or things that are actually hiding the name of a person. So with the first and second Antichrist, he does this play where Paul Neolaron is not the towns, because it describes something in the rest of the prophecy, which is Century 8, Quatrain 1, that sounds like a man. It sounds very much like Napoleon, things Napoleon did. So with that little lead, you look at it again, and they spell it again, it's Napalanois in French. It's another key. So many people make the mistake when they try to uncrunch anagrams of Nostradamus. They assume that he spoke their language and did it in their language. You must do these things in either classical languages or in French, and preferably a ancient French or Renaissance French, medieval French. And if you do that, then you're actually talking Nostradamus' language, and things come up, like one of the anagrams concerning Mesopotamia and a war there that sounds very modern, talks about alus sanguinaire, which is bloody alus, A-L-U-S. Well, you take one look at those letters, it's basically the abbreviated L, USA, le USA, which would be the way, if he saw the acronym, the USA, he might have called it the USA, le USA. That's alus. It's a classic anagram.
Good point.
So with the Napoleonois means Napoleon King, King Napoleon, and it's spelled Napoleon is very similar to the spelling that Napoleon had when he came from Corsica, which Nostradamus said he'd be near Italy and be more Italian and a foreigner. In fact, Napoleon's lineage is his family came from Italy, and he's really more Italian than French. And he spoke Italian as well, and his name used to be Napoleone Buonaparte. And he turned it into, he francifized it, if you will. I can't think of the right name this late hour, but but that happens around this hour. And he made it Napoleon Bonaparte. So that's the first Antichrist. And and there's amazing prophecies that I show in this book, Nostradamus and the Antichrist, codenamed Mabus, that follow the story. It's really a prophetic detective narrative. We're trying to look at all these leads and clues. And so after him, we get the next Antichrist, and his name is Hister. Hister is the ancient name for the river Danube. It's also called the Eister by some people, but it's also spelled with a silent H.
John, when we come back, let's talk about Hister and then the third Antichrist. I'm George Norrie, John Hogarth, special guest on Coast to Coast AM. Okay, we left off with Antichrist number 2, John, Hister.
Yes, Hister is the name of the river Danube, the ancient classical name. And once again, Nostradamus is using a thing to describe a person. And Hitler grew up, and he said this person would come from Noricum, and that is, and it come from the deepest part of Western Europe, which means if you want to go deep into Western Europe, you have to go eastward before it becomes Eastern Europe, which is Austria. Noricum is the ancient name of Austria. The person's born, his name is Hister. It's the name of the Danube River. If you understand that Adolf Hitler grew up in Linz, Austria, on the banks of the Danube, that if you study his life, many of his reflections, including his dastardly plan of concentration camps, were things he daydreamed while playing on the banks of the River Danube. And you got to wonder the prophetic bias of Nostradamus, who was born of Jewish parents, although he was a Catholic. He definitely, his prophecies about this man, this captain of Greater Germany, who uses the symbol of a crooked cross, who breaks unions and agreements and treaties in the years 37, 41, 45, meaning 1937, 1941, 1945. He was a little off on 37. That was the Munich Pact, happened in 38. But 41 was when Hitler broke his non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and invaded the Soviet Union in 1941. In 1945, the union called the Axis Alliance, the tripartite alliance, was destroyed. And in one of the prophecies describing his great empire falling through the Ardennes, he says Ardennes, the forest of the Ardennes. That quatrain is numbered Century 5, Quatrain 45. 5 is a number for the fifth month of the year, May 1945, when World War II in Europe ended. So that's the second Antichrist. And one of the more intriguing things that I go about describing in that book, Nostradamus and the Antichrist, codenamed Mabus, is that he said that the second Antichrist would find himself ending in a huge cage buried into the earth. And I sometimes wonder if Nostradamus, when he was seeing, hearing, and feeling the future through the aid of angelic emissaries, he said, of fire, that he didn't see a vision of the Führer bunker under construction, when the huge iron cage that would soon be filled with the cement walls of the Führer bunker were exposed to the sky.
Or maybe a elevator that would take them down.
Yes, I think there were only steps in the Führer bunker. I checked that possibility out, and yeah, they were just sets of stairs. But anyway, that's the second Antichrist. Now, the third Antichrist, he gives the name Mabus, M-A-B-U-S. There are basically three quatrains that are the main clues to the story of the Antichrist. And one talks about him coming from the infernal gods of Hannibal, which, by the way, that phrase in French I show can decode using Nostradamus's anagram code laws to Mabus, or Osama bin Laden, actually, who's one of the candidates.
Good point.
And the thing about anagrams is that you have the right. You can reverse letters. If you have a B, it can be a D. For instance, Mabus. If you reverse all the letters, becomes Suban, S-U-B-A-M. The B is reversed to a D. You can turn it again, and it's Sudan. If you look at the Arabic phonetics way of pronouncing Saddam, it's Saddam, which means the one who confronts. Odd name to give a child, but it certainly was his destiny. And you have, actually, that can be coded into Mabus. You take Osama bin Laden, and you, in the proper pronunciation, is U, not Osama, like we don't say A, America. And you, again, U-S-A-M-A, you have M-double-A-U-S. If you have a redundant letter, you can replace it with another letter, a single letter. That's the laws of Nostradamus' anagram. There's Mabus again. You can take the code name of Yasser Arafat, Abu Ammar. There's the fact that most Palestinian leaders and many terrorists use Abu, father, as a code. That's another game where the middle of a word is before you, and the two letters that finish the word are dropped off, the M and the S. M, A-B-U, Abu, S, Mabus.